There's a time where I was at SO and these kids came up to me like, yo,
Can you buy us bogeys?
buy bogeys?
No way.
I was like, no.
You said hell no, right? Bogeys? That's some paper. I don't know. A lighter? I don't know.
They were like 12.
12?
They were 12, bro. And I was like,
They had the nerve to ask you? God
They were like,
damn.
I'm willing to buy you a Gatorade. I'm like, I'm grown. I don't need a
A
kid.
Gatorade? Nigga, get the fuck out of here, bro. Go back to school, fam. It's fucking fourth period.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Coffee Break Podcast, hosted by myself, Jama, and
Slim.
today we have a really interesting topic. But before we do that, please feel free to subscribe to this channel.
Hell yeah.
All our social media, you can find it in the description below. But yeah, let's get into it. Today I wanted to talk about, and it's a topic that I've always been thinking about because it's kind of impacted my life for the most part of it. But it's the perception of what others think of you. And before I throw it to you, I just wanna say, like, in today's age, we live in a world where everybody is always reliant on what others think of them, right?
Yep.
So like even to the smallest of things, like my habits, my hobbies, my career, my relationships, it's like there are some people whose sole purpose is just like, I need to satisfy other people's perception of what they think of me, right? It's like requirements. Like, for example, like your mom wants you to do something and you end up doing that for your entire life because that's what you thought was good for you, right? And I just want to share a personal story where it's like when I was younger, and no hate to my parents because they're just trying to do what's best for me.
I can't maybe even have to disclaimer that. No hate to my parents. Like,
no, because I love them, and I hate the idea that ever talking ill of them, but it's not.
It's real life.
It's just truth, right?
Real life,
it's like,
yeah.
When I kind of wanted to go to college, right? And then the idea of college in the Somali community was like,
don't even start.
it's low class.
it's for dumber people.
Exactly, yeah. And I remember throwing that idea to them, and they're like, "You're not going to university?" And then me being the young kid, I was like, "No, I'll go to university. You know, I will do that, satisfy." And I ended up going to university, you know?
Okay.
And I hated what I was doing, and I'm still doing that to this day, but that's a conversation for another time, you know? But it's
Shout out to college graduates, by the way. Seneca.
But it's like there are people who are trapped in the cycle of satisfying others people's requirements of them. And I think it's so sad that, for example, alhamdulillah, I feel like I broke out of that. And there are still people to this day who are in their 40s, their 50s, who are still trying to trapped in the cycle, you know? So I want to throw it to you. Do you ever felt that you were impacted by the perception of others?
1,200%.
How so?
Listen, let's break. I want to peel this back a little further. Actually, I want to get a little more into the psychology of it because I do believe that other people have an impact on everyone's life. It's not just people who are weak, low self-esteem, who are having identity problems. It's not just that. I think everyone who's walking on the earth right now has had some kind of impact on their life from some other external factor or person, right? And that could be either big or small. That's just dependent on how you react, right? So to take it a step further, I want to go back to like our younger ages, right? When we were like young and growing up, around like ages of like 5 to like 10, right? Very impressionable. And I think we relied on other influences from other people, like people that are older than us, people that are above us in some kind of way, our peers in school that we look up to, our teachers, for some kind of direction of how to be, you know? And as time goes on, I think we start to develop our own sense of what's right and what's wrong or what we should do. But I think in the teenage years, especially, some of us kind of get lost in being in a crowd that you didn't see yourself kind of being in, or going down a path you never saw yourself going down. And that can lead to it can affect a person, you know what I mean? And this conversation is actually pretty interesting because I was telling you before when we started, like I was thinking about how some of the things that I do have been impacted by other people, right? I was just thinking about that this week randomly on my own, and I was thinking to myself back to when I was in high school, right? I used to always, I don't know why, fam, it's just the dumbest shit ever, but I used to always be self-conscious about my laugh. Like I used to be like, yo, I'm laughing too loud. I'm laughing too hysterical.
You did have an ugly laugh, though.
And then I tone it down. I'm laughing quiet. Niggas are like, yo, is he mad at me? I'm like, that used to turn me upside down. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know
what started that insecurity.
To be honest with you, I know for myself now.
Yeah.
I overanalyze a lot. I overanalyze more than the average person. I'd like to think, right? Whether it's myself, whether it's my surroundings, whether it's who I'm speaking to.
Yeah.
I like to deeply think about things a lot more than the average person. I like to think. So that led me to kind of try and shape my personality to the best version of myself. And that was impacted by other people, you know? And we went to rowdy high school, you know, where it's like you have to be A plus B plus C or else you're not making it out.
You know, and sorry to cut you off. There's one more thing I wanted to say. I feel like you and I and the people we grew up with, we were kind of impacted a little bit more because our high school had so few people.
Yeah.
So the fact that there was only like 300 to 400 of us max, everybody knew each other, right? So if you were to kind of like be weird or be like
I don't like how you looked at me, which said weird.
You can't give you like the, you know,
because I'm not gonna lie, you're kind of a weirdo, fam.
Makar was loved by everyone.
By what I stand by.
No, side eye though. I saw that.
What I was saying, no, I thought you were giving me a signal. I'm like, yo, which wrong?
I didn't move.
But to the point that I was making is like, there's so few people that everybody knew each other. So everybody's perception of you was so limited because if one person thought of you some way, chances are the other 399 people are going to think of you the same way, right? So you saying that you were self-conscious about your laugh, it's like under the assumption that if one person thinks that way, everybody's going to think I'm a weirdo, right?
Exactly.
You were a kid and you didn't know better.
Didn't know any better. And to throw it even more, in high school, you're kind of in this position where you're trying to climb this quote-unquote social ladder, right? And try and be the mold of the cool person in high school, right? So that kind of all gets in the way of who your actual personality really is, you know? I think as we get older and we start to tap into who we are a little more based off of real life experiences and stuff, but impact from other people can really shape you in a better way too, you know?
Interesting.
So like,
interesting.
I personally learned in college, right, through speaking with different people. Actually, one of my best friends I met in college, he really helped me learn people skills that I never had.
You told me that before.
You know, he was very attentive. That's one thing I noticed about this guy when I first met him. He would never interrupt me when I'm speaking. He would always let me finish my sentences. If I was going on a rant, he'd let me say it. Just very attentive. And I just picked up off that. You know, it kind of subconsciously brushed off on me, you know?
Got you.
And then after we graduated college and we went our separate ways and we started seeing each other less, I noticed the impact he had on me. And it was a very significant impact, you know? So my thing is I tried my best to kind of take the things that help me grow as a person. That I consider impact from others. I try to take those things and run with them and kind of build on them. But there are times where external factors or people of significance in my life, even now as an adult, their opinions or their way of doing things kind of get in the way of how I actually am as a person, you know? So that's kind of the battle that we go through as people, but there is so much, like the significance of other people's impact on you can go either really good or really bad too.
I think there should be a good equal. Like I think, because let me give you a really good example where I had a friend who she was very intelligent, right? And that's
well,
I don't really talk to her anymore. But she was
she got dumb when she stopped talking.
When she left it, was like
no, but she was super smart, right? And her entire life she was known as the smart girl. And that's because her parents molded her to be like this person who studies all the time, takes school seriously, go to college, go to university, get your degree, get a job, right?
Yeah.
So then I remember when she was in university, and don't get me wrong, she's like an A+ student. There was a time where she failed the class.
Okay.
Right? I remember she told me she came home that day, and she got the biggest lecture from her parents. And like the point that I'm trying to make is, her whole life was molded to be perfect. And the time that there was a crack, the same people who told her this is what you should be really brought her down to the level where this is not what I raised you to be. So I think there's a level of understanding and being able to have patience for people, because this girl, after this mark that she got, she was never that A plus student anymore. She became that C plus B minus student because she was like, the people who I was trying to satisfy my entire life, they turned on me the second that they got it, you know? And why am I satisfying a group of people who never really thought of me the best anyway? Because they just thought I would always bring in these marks, and the second that I didn't, they turned on me, right? And I thought about that, and I'm like, is that how everybody really thinks? Because me personally, I've always been known as the smart kid, right?
Yep.
But then when university hit, and I wasn't the smart kid anymore.
The 70s and 80s went away?
Yeah, I went through a personality crisis because I'm not as smart as I thought I was. Like, I'm in university. I was smart when it came to the 400 people. But when it came to
You
like,
see, that little sucker.
He's looking at me and you, right? Like, come on, man. Like,
Number
I know we
one,
went to the same school and shit.
initially he said there's 300 people. You see when he's talking about his smartness, I went to 400 people.
Dumbass nigga. Come on, man.
No, there was 400 people, but then when I come to a school where there's 10,000 people on campus every day, I found out really how average
Average ass. Average L.
But then that's when I get to a reality. I'm not the smart guy anymore, right? I'm just the average dude. So now I have to be able to kind of come to terms with who I actually am and change that perception of what people think I was, you know?
I think, this is a great conversation about identity specifically. I think actually just based off what you said right now, I came to the conclusion, not even a conclusion, like a theory almost, I think, and I was looking back onto my personal life too. I think to get to your true identity, you have to go through some kind of a molding phase and then kind of hit a brick wall almost, kind of have some kind of crisis. In the story that you shared right now, the girl that you were friends with, her parents not accepting the fact that she didn't get that passing grade was her identity crisis, And then like my whole thing was after we left high school, it was there wasn't a status quo anymore for me to follow, so I became my own person, like that was kind of my identity crisis, like kind of reshape myself and to follow my own path in a sense, but I think that's really important. But I also do think that some people are a little bit late to the party with that, like I see some people that are near my age or around my age that I see like some of the tendencies that I saw from them at a young age, some of the things that they're still doing that they're not ready to give up yet.
People are late to the party.
That are holding them back, So I think a part of identity is realizing that there isn't a path built for you. You have to kind of build your own path. And some people don't realize that, and that's a scary thing to go through, where especially when your peers are in positions where they're very much molded who they are, or people around you, like whether it's your brothers or your friends or your actual, like, significant other or someone around you, right, is shaping themselves to be a better person or to be a more identifiable person. And then you're just kind of following the crowd, like just still stagnant, that's a scary thing, and people go through that shit all the time. But I think it helps I'm an overthinker, fam, so I thought about this shit when I feel like no one else was thinking about this shit, early on. And I don't think a lot of people have these deep thoughts about themselves, about their personality enough. But it's so like, it's reality. Everybody's going to go through that time where they're like, yo, what am I really doing? Who am I really trying to be? Let me be the best version of me, And that could come at any point, but the earlier the better, right? And once you get 100%. To that, it's like your growth starts to exponentially go high, So like,
I think to that point, I think you brought up a really awesome point. I think people's growth period really starts when they start to realize that they need to work on themselves rather than be molded by people who are around them, right? Because when you understand that, the perception of what people think about you is not as important as you really think it is, that's when you really can fill that cup full of water. I
agree.
And in that cup, you can fill it with things that make you full. Because I feel like if you always put other people's opinion of you so high, you're never going to be satisfied with yourself. You're always going to be like, how can I do this for them? How can I do that for them? But what you really need to do is understand what makes you happy. Understand the requirements that make you whole and fill that with whatever that you want it to fill, I
agree.
Because another thing that people do is they're scared that the people around them are not going to be with them anymore. If people love you, man, regardless of if you change drastically or, if they don't, it's like the people who will stick around will stick around. Not all friendships or, dare I say, even family is gonna be around for you with ever. You know,
100%.
I hate the idea that people say like they're your family. You know, no, it's not that. It's the fact that you need to surround yourself with people who are good energy, right? If your family is not good energy, then of course I'm not gonna say cut your family off. Like work on the things that you need to work on. But if at the end of the day, if your mental health is deteriorating, you got to detach yourself from things. You know, you have to be willing to grow.
And to add, it's just distancing yourself from negativity. It's
100%,
not nothing personal. You're just trying to be the best version of you, right? And I think, you know, and I was thinking as well, like another thing that I noticed that a lot of people are impacted by from external factors is bad habits. You know, bad habits is one thing that I noticed that a lot of people pick up, like smoking, for example, right? Yeah. Nobody just goes to the convenience store and one day randomly and just buys a cigarette pack and just becomes a smoker, right?
I've seen it happen.
I've never seen that happen before. I've never seen that happen. I think it just happens over time, just based off of social anxiety.
Short story. Can I try to cut you off? There was a time where I was at SO and these kids came up to me like, yo.
He buys bogeys?
He buys bogeys.
No way.
I was like, no.
You said, hell no, right? Bogeys? That's some paper? I don't know. A lighter?
They were like 12.
12?
They were 12, bro. And I was like,
they had the nerve to ask you? God
They were like,
damn.
I'm willing to buy you a Gatorade. I'm like, I'm grown. I don't need a
A
kid.
Gatorade? Nigga, get the fuck out of here, bro. Go back to school, fam. It's fucking fourth period, my nigga. Like,
But sorry, I
shit.
cut you off. What were you saying?
What was I saying?
You were saying, shit, my fault. Well, you were talking about bogeys at a store.
Bogeys.
Habits.
Yeah. Bogeys at a store led me to that. I'm not gonna lie. But I think, bad habits are very much you get bad habits from being around people with bad habits. I feel like majority of the time, you know, or whether it's the environment that you're in, or I mean, like even it could be family too. You never know, fam. I was using smoking as an example because like I was saying, no one I know ever went to the grocery store or the convenience store and said, yo, let me get a bogey pack fresh out first day. It just happens based off being in the group, 100%. Getting influenced by other people around you, you know, and then that forms into bad habits, you know, even like people who lie. I feel like people who lie, who are amongst people who lie, will lie more, you know, like it's just the influence you have from others around you can be so much more significant in your life than you can actually know. And I think bad habits is one thing that people have a hard time breaking, but they don't even realize that they're picking them up from other people.
Yeah, exactly. You are who you surround yourself with.
Exactly.
You know, if your friends are doing these things, most chances are you are as well, right?
And you might, and another thing too, I think you might also miss out on things if you're influenced by people who don't see the same visions as you. I'll give you a small little example. Like when I was a kid in 6th grade, I really loved skateboarding.
Really?
I
never knew that, eh?
Die hard. That year, I was a skater, fam. I learned how to skate. Kids? I learned how to skate. I learned how to do a 1-2 tricks.
Somebody that skates?
Fam, I still can't do the kickflip, but yeah, I used to skate. I used to love skating, and it was a hobby of mine that I picked up. I bought a skateboard. You know, I learned how to skate. I did all that shit. I was into like the skaters, celebrity skaters, and all that shit. But
Tony Hawk shit. Like
Tony Hawk, Bam Margera, Ryan Sheckler.
I don't even know who that is.
Come on, man. Big
you
Black.
Gotta know the great one.
Huh?
You gotta know the great
I
one.
only know Tony.
Yeah, that's
the only
one I
Tony
know
the OG,
too.
man. He was the first ever at the 720, but we're not going to
Still,
even...
in his 50s doing the skateboard tricks.
He broke
crazy
every
thing.
bone in his body, fam.
Yeah, I see that.
Real
video.
nigga. That's my... Yo, that guy has the N-word pass.
He does.
No cap.
Fam, that guy, PS2 was his.
Yo, Tony Hawk, American Wasteland, Underground 1, Underground 2.
Yo, I
Tony
didn't know you were a
bro.
skater, nigga, eh?
I loved it. But yo, the fact that we went to a Somali-dominated middle school, high school, I had to put that shit aside.
You never picked it back up?
Never.
Why
Never
not?
picked it back up. Well, I can't say I'm not into it, right?
Yeah.
I still very much into like the aesthetic of it. You know, it's helped kind of shape my style in a sense.
Yeah.
You know, but I don't skateboard. You know, I don't look out for skateboarding stuff anymore, and I think that's very much influenced by the school that I went to. You know.
So you think if you went to a more Adan school,
not even Adan, but more accepting of the fact that I had other hobbies that other people did. Because like at the time I was into skateboarding, I wasn't into basketball. Like at all. Like I didn't watch basketball. I just knew names of basketball players. And then the next year after grade 6, I got put on to basketball by everybody else who was watching basketball. Oh, Kobe, the Celtics, the Lakers in the finals. That's when I got put onto basketball. Really, when the Celtics and Lakers were in the finals.
Yeah.
Like another mutual friend of ours, Hassan, pulled me to the side. He's like, "Yo, who you got?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I like skateboarding." So that was like, I remember making that, you know, mental decision. Like, yo, put this shit aside. Get with what everybody's with.
Yeah.
And I don't regret it because I really much love basketball now. Yeah. But I'm like, what could have been? You know, I don't know what could have been if I stuck with what I liked at the time, you know. But that's another influence from other people, right? And that shaped my identity in a sense, right? But it's just something you go through as in life, you know. Everybody has to go through. I think now, if I were to pick up a hobby and my general friend group wasn't into it, I'd be more into that hobby, or I'd be more true to that hobby because I can keep that up, and I'm not looking for external influences to sway my decisions on what I like.
Yeah.
But at the time, that was what was happening, and it's now all these years later, I still don't skateboard. But when I see a nigga on a skateboard,
I didn't even know that about you.
When I see a nigga on a skateboard on the streets, I'm like, yo, let me pop an Audi for you real quick.
Can you do that? Can you do
1,000%? That's the only thing I can do. But I can jump off the curb, you know. I can ride that bitch. You're like,
pause.
Come on, man. You're a homophobic ass motherfucker.
My bad.
We're accepting over here, right?
That was good timing.
Just saying. All right, the climate we live in right now.
No, but I actually did not know that about you. And the fact that you felt like you weren't comfortable sharing that when you were younger.
I'll tell you the moment, actually, and it's like a little bullying moment, fam.
What happened? Yo, what happened?
You know our friend Salman? Fam, I'll tell you this. I'm being so 100% right now. This is for the Coffee Break podcast. I love you guys. Grade 5, I went to a different elementary school, right?
Yeah,
and then we all linked up in grade 6 at our middle school. So grade 5, I was really close friends with Salman, right? Yeah. And I hung out with him very often. Okay. Grade 6, we got split up into different classes. Then I went my way. I started skating, you know, hanging out with the skaters. And he pulled me aside one day after school. He was like, "Yo, Sam, you're a skaterhead now." Those words broke me, fam. They broke me as a man. I was like, oh my God.
You changed
I was like, that's a man saying that, man. Oh shit. After that, fam, I had to make a decision real quick. I was like, yo, so who won the game last night, guys?
You changed your whole personality,
right? I remember it being towards the end of the year, fam, you know?
That's
like
funny.
He was like, he hit me with the one line. It changed my whole life.
Changed
my whole life right there. I was like, damn, all right. But looking back, I'm like, I can't be mad at it, you know. Like I'm very much happy of who I turned out to be.
Yeah.
But I can't help but think what could have been, you know.
You think your life would be drastically different?
I mean, who knows? I could have met different people. I could have been in different rooms, you know.
True.
Could have got influenced into different things, you know. I could have had different talents. You never know.
Definitely.
Anything
If you
could
went
happen.
to skate parks and shit like that, you
Exactly.
different people.
Who knows? Imagine, because there used to be this game. Well, the skaters play horse as a skating game. It's called Skate, right?
Okay.
Where you have to do the trick. Yeah, and then if you don't, and I used to play that game with niggas all the time. Take L's. And my goal was to beat a nigga that we went to school with in that game of skate. Could never do it.
He was that good?
He was that good. I was like, yo, you remember Leroy?
Huh?
Remember Leroy?
Yeah, the black guy.
Could never do it. He's too nice.
No, but skaters have resilience though. It definitely builds, like the kids that do it.
Yeah,
it builds different type of character.
Yeah, because you get hurt often while you're learning the shit.
And you get right back up.
Right? Taking bare bumps and scratches and all that shit. I was doing that.
I can't do that stuff.
I loved it, man.
I can't be hurt, fam.
Yeah.
I'm too sensitive.
Fam. That's why you're the shooting big man alive back in the day.
That's why I go to the gym, bro.
God damn.
People can't know I'm sensitive.
God damn. But yeah, man. Yo. Yeah, looking back on it, that was like an actual, like, that was a moment for me.
That's so interesting to say because for me, I don't think I've dropped. Oh, I do have one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Up until I was like in high school, I didn't feel comfortable telling people that I watched anime. And anime because be real, anime became
It wasn't hot. It
wasn't hot. I was watching it at a time where people thought it was weird. I was watching it.
It was
grade
like
5.
It was like there was a group of kids that were anime kids.
Yeah.
And you didn't want to be a part of it.
I didn't want to be a part of the anime kids because if you were like given that label of being an anime kid, you're a weirdo.
Yeah,
it's definitely a nerd.
Yeah. And then when I came to university and it became like a hot topic, everybody was watching it.
Where you niggas at?
Yo, I'm an OG. Like,
where you niggas been at?
Where was the same energy when I was hyped about a Naruto episode? You know,
that's crazy.
But
what is the world like for you now as an anime fan?
It's way better. Like the fact that
you feel like you can breathe now.
On TikTok, there's like a whole.
I did not have it for me in skateboarding, bro. Like, why did everybody skate into skateboarding?
Because skateboarding, I think, was popular in the 2000s.
It fell off.
Yeah, it fell off, and then you liked it when it fell off. I started liking anime when it was slow, and then it got hot.
Yeah.
Tyler, the creator, and then made skateboarding a little bit cooler.
Those niggas ain't no skaters, man. Come on.
Yeah, no, that's their community. That's where they come. That's where they all met up and shit.
That's just
anime is just it's pop culture now.
It is pop culture. Anyone like any demographic, they watch anime. I need
people to know.
That's
I
crazy.
liked it first.
So you're one of those niggas.
I'm not part of the group of people.
I listened to the first album, alright. I was at the first show, guys.
First, and then people started watching it after me, and we're like, "Yo, did you watch this?" Yes, I watched it when it came out in 2002.
Look at this gatekeeping ass motherfucker, bro. Like, why can't you just be inclusive?
No, he's one of the originals. I'm for the originals. You get to talk this talk, but for people, I have that. You know what? When Shaquille O'Neal says that G14 classification.
You have the G14 anime. G14 anime classification right here, guys.
I can talk about it.
Post it up.
Getting back to topic, like I didn't feel comfortable, and there was actually a time once where I was talking to this girl in high school, and then she was like, "Yo, what are you interested?" I was like, "I'm interested in anime."
She was like, "What?"
I got ghosted. Dead ass.
For anime?
For anime.
I bet you any fucking money right now that girl's watching anime right now.
Till this day, I'll keep it 100. That's not something I share up until I'm super comfortable with people.
Anime?
And that's probably just like my own insecurity.
Anime?
Yeah.
That's definitely insecurity.
That's the popular thing, though.
No, but I mean, for a woman's perception,
no, but
it's like, it's weird. Like, why do you like this?
I think when you're a youth, the people just look at what everybody shares in common. But now as an adult, niggas look for something that makes you unique.
I scream and shout everywhere I go that I love anime, but when it comes to talking to like a partner, it's like it's kind of awkward. It's like
you put that aside.
I like reading books. I like doing this. I like anime.
I mean,
it's kind of weird.
When I hear that, I'm like, oh,
the tone change.
Bro, you have a person in your house who's a replica of me. Stop.
It's sad. It's hard to live in that house.
But to that point, I feel like as you grow older, you become more comfortable with who you actually are.
I agree, 1000%.
And then when you become more comfortable, that's when you start having your own requirements as to what makes you happy rather than the people around you, right?
Let me ask you a question, bro.
Of course.
And this is where I'm like right now, not even right now, like over the last few years, I've had this thing where I try my best not to influence other people based off of how I think they should be. Does that happen to you? Like, I don't like policing people's mannerisms, actions, especially if they're near my age or older than me. That bothers me. I used to be very vocal about that shit, right? I used to always say, yo, don't do that, or why are you doing this? But I realized that leads to uncomfortable discussions about people's personalities that I have no business being a part of, you know? So I do my best to now, if I see some dumb shit especially, I'll let it go, you know? Yeah. I won't engage in anything like that because I know I am a confrontational person. I know that about myself, but I don't want to be the person who is influencing somebody to be different from whom they think is the right for them. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
Whether it's good or bad, that's just not my place. You know what I mean? But that is something that I've been really actually like thinking about over the last little bit, over the last few years especially, because I have 2 younger brothers, fam, you know? So like for me, growing up, I had that kind of like built into me, like, yo, don't do that, or yo, you should do this, or why did you do that, right? But that doesn't go for everybody I meet, you know, especially people that are my age or older. Like I can't see myself going up to somebody older than me being like, yo, why'd you do that, or why are you doing this? It's more just like, let it go, you know? It doesn't affect me personally, let it go.
Just let them be who they are, right?
Exactly. Okay. So that's one thing I know.
Where does that fall though? Like if they're doing something that may lead to them embarrassing themselves or niggas looking at them weird, is that what you're talking about? Or
it's just like, I'll give you an example. Like if somebody is, okay, I have this friend who laughs like a hyena, fam.
Who?
You don't know. You don't know.
God damn.
You don't know.
I thought it was me.
You don't know. When I say laughs like a hyena, I mean like his laugh is unbearable, bro. Okay. And he's one of those people that laughs out of the blue. You know, when shit's not funny. You know.
Fam, I feel like you're describing.
Fam, there's been. Nigga, just chill, bro. Look at this low self-esteem ass nigga, bro. First, he can't get a Somali girl. Now, it's getting. What are you talking about me? Like, nigga. Let me say what I'm saying, bro.
Say what you want to say.
This nigga right here, he's the guy I'm talking about. I'm joking. No, but actually, like, there's the actual guy I'm thinking about, bro. Like, and there's been several times, bro. We used to hang out often. We would go to movies, fam. this guy's loud, obnoxious, you know, just very, very like, you know, like I personally was thinking like, yo, like you got to have some manners, you know, like just be polite, you know, that's what I was personally thinking. Right. And I checked him on that shit, you know, and this was years ago when we used to hang out, when we used to be more tight. I checked him on that shit. And that nigga got very, very upset at me one day.
Okay.
Very, very, to the point where he's like, yo, I don't want to hang around you anymore because you're like trying to be my dad, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, I had to really take that in. I was like, yo, even though I feel like what he's doing is like very like, you know, childish and like, you know, he could be better. I'm trying to shape him into a better person. It's not my place. Gotcha. You know what I mean? It's not, it wasn't just the laughter too. It's just like certain little aspects about his personality that I used to always like kind of tap him on the shoulder and be like, yo, bro, why are you doing it like that? Or why are you making the scene like this? You know, like I noticed I am very much a downer when I do that shit. And I don't like that about me. You know, I like to be cheerful. I like to be happy. I like to engage with people in the best way. And policing their mannerisms and their actions is just not my place. You know what I mean? So I think that's it's a big no-no for me now, you know.
Do you think like your friendship was bound to get distance?
Yeah, because we weren't. Yeah, like
he may gain attention. You don't like the attention.
Exactly.
That's gaining.
That's my thing. You know, like what I realize in that is that you'll more so be comfortable with the people that you align with. You know, in terms of like your morals, your mannerisms, how you see life. You know, like. When you tend to chill with those people who are more similar to you, like you won't even have to go through those confrontational moments really, you know, because like, you know, like everybody's like-minded and shit, you know. My thing was growing up, I used to always venture out into different circles, you know, different social circles and shit like that. And I still do, don't get me wrong, but like I didn't have an immediate space or circle that I could go to and kind of just, you know, be my own personal self. Yeah. Right. That kind of developed over time. But in that, I learned that I can't insert my personality in where other people reside their personality. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to be the guy that polices somebody's mannerisms or little things like their laughter and their speech and their way of questioning things. And, you know, like, that's not my place. You know what I mean? So, like, I had to leave that behind.
I think I'm really happy that he checked you in that because he was like, that's who I am. Mm-hmm. If you're telling me to take out components of who I am.
Exactly. What am I doing?
I'm not coming to you whole. If you're having a side of me that...
He told me straight up, like, stop trying to be my dad.
Yeah.
Those words hit me so deep. I'm like, yo, this guy's my age. I am trying to be his dad right now. Like, let me chill. You know? That really hit me deep. And then since then, I've never lost that. It's been in my head like, yo, don't be that nigga's dad, bro. He has a dad. He has a dad.
Yeah, but... Just to navigate back to our topic, it's like, I really think, man, people's whole objective is to make everyone happy. And I think as like a closing, I know we're going to close out soon. I think it's really important for people to realize that what makes you whole is only what you can decide, right? Mm-hmm. And I really, especially in the Muslim community where like, I get it. Our parents are everything to us, and Jannah is under the feet of our mothers. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to say but I just want to say, at what point are you willing to sacrifice your own mental health to the point where you're satisfying every requirement of what your parents want? Because at that point, you're just a servant to them, you know?
Can I ask you a question before we round off here?
Of course.
Do you think there should be an age or an age range where your parents' opinions of you have already been set and there's no new additions to what they want you to be in life?
No, I think parents should always have a strong input into
no, but I mean like
my
question is like, do you think from a young age to the point where you're like in your 30s, married, whatever, do you think your parents have this one way that they see you being, or do you think that also changes for them?
Because I feel like as a parent from 0 to 18, you are solely responsible for this kid. So you are in charge of making sure that they don't turn out messed out, right? Messed up. But after they become 18 and they start realizing who they actually are, because that's the first time that they will separate away from you entirely and kind of become their own person rather than be a +1 to the parents. I think that's when you should give them the ability to grow and the space to become who they actually are, right? And at that point, from 0 to 18, I think parents should have a very strong hold as to what kids do. I'm not saying controlling, but a strong hold. But after 18, I think the parents this shouldn't be the final decision maker. A parent should have a strong opinion as to what the kid should do, but the final decision maker should always be the kid.
100%.
And I feel like in Muslim communities, people don't do that. I think up until you're 100 years old, your parents' like final opinion of you is law, and I don't think it should be like that. I think the people around you, like for example, if I came to you with like a question, right? And you gave me your opinion, I would 100% put that into the pocket of like my final decision making, right? But no offense, but your opinion,
it's not the law,
may not be the final thing that I go for. And I really think people of a certain age need to realize that at the end of the day, it's your decision to make. It's not the people around you. Yes, the people around you can give you their opinions onto what that decision is, but you need to be happy with the decision that you make at the end, away from other people. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Does that make sense?
100%. And I think a part of it too has to deal with like the word I used earlier kind of works for this, but alignment, you know? I think your values and morals, especially with your parents, have to be aligned, you know? So that you can kind of get us, like your parents, for example, want the best for you at all times, you know?
100%.
So like, you know, even though some of the things that they're saying, you might not agree with it, that it's for your the betterment of you, right?
100%, yeah.
But I think what I mean by alignment is like, if you're, like, for example, let's say your parents want you to go work in the bank, you know, they're like, oh, that's the shit that's going to make us get out of the mud, blah, 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 right? If you can, what I mean by alignment is, since you already know that they have this idea that that's going to help us, help you and make you successful and stuff like that, if you can somehow mold that thought process and present them with something that is similar or almost in alignment with what they're saying, like if your dad came to you or your mom came to you and said, yo, I want you to work at the bank, and then you told them, oh, but I actually can work in software development who does this for the bank, you know? Like, I think alignment along those lines goes a long way, you know?
100%.
And I don't think people are, not necessarily people, but I don't think young people aren't as willing to compromise their goals and aspirations and decisions based off of how they want to align with the betterment of them, based off of external factors, right? Parents, friends, family members, right? They all want the best for you, right?
Majority of the time.
Majority of the time, they want the best for you. So I think it's a responsibility almost of ours to see where they're coming from. And like I said, align with their idea of the best version of you, you know? Yeah. Whether it's some kind of compromise, an alternative strategy, or even a conversation, you know? I think that helps along the way. Because like, I feel like growing up, I did that myself too. Like, I had a conversation with my parents, like the whole college university thing. I had that same shit. They were like, yo, you ain't going there. They're like, you're not going to college. I don't care. And I was accepted to university, you know, like I got into university, but I had to like lay the law almost and tell them, yo, like, this is my plan, A plus B plus C. I just need you to hear me out on it. It wasn't pretty at first, but alhamdulillah, I was successful, right?
Yeah, you were.
But
to a degree.
To a degree, you know? So like, I think for that, you know, like it all started with the compromise, the conversation, you know, that's missing, I feel like, in people's lives nowadays, you know, because like you said, everything is law, right? But there's no real compromise or conversation being had. So if you are in that position, I just want to say, have a conversation, talk to somebody, especially if it's your parents or somebody who's very important or a figure in your life. Tell them what you want, listen to them, and come up with some kind of compromise, because you never know. That could be the missing link for you. You know what I mean?
And the thing is, parents typically believe that kids are this thing where they don't have plans, right? If you come to your parents with, this is what I'm going to do, here's A, B, C, D, they're more likely to be like, okay, I understand where you're coming from. Because for the most part, like, your cats, right? You don't really think that they're anything without you. You know, like, parents are under this impression that I need to do everything for them, because if not, they're not going to be successful, and then I'm going to be a terrible failure of a parent. But what parents need to realize is you molded this kid to be everything that you wanted them to be, right? And you need to realize at a certain point, you need to be hands off and let them succeed or fail, because both of those experiences are going to be awesome. If you fail, now you know not to do that again. If you succeed, now you know that this is a path that I can take, right? Like, I feel like parents are too hands-on as what the kid's future will be, to the point where they're scared to let go. And letting go is something that I think it's super important as a parent, because that's how you know you did well, you know?
And on the... Sorry,
I want to ask you a question now.
Yeah.
since you lived on your own before, and how did that alter your relationship with your parents, and as well as build your self-worth and your own independence? Because that's the important thing, because parents will reflect their beliefs, but if you learn yourself while you're away from that, and your parents see you as, this guy is his own man or own woman, if women are listening, that's an important thing to me, because that's what I learned when I was on my own. So just speak to that if you can.
Honestly, like, it's a very good question, actually. And I was thinking about this throughout the years as I've left home and come back, right? And it ties back to what I was saying at the beginning too. Like, that was a little bit of an identity crisis for me. I think personally now, looking back on living outside of home for a year and a half, I think I wouldn't do that. If I could go back in time, I wouldn't. I wouldn't do that.
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't do that because I think a part of me didn't realize what, and my parents weren't, my mom specifically, she wasn't with that decision at all.
Okay.
She wasn't with that decision at all. She was very against it. My dad was very much for it. He was like, go see life, go experience the real world and whatnot. But my mom was telling me it's very unnecessary. You shouldn't be doing this. Come stay with us. Like, she was very much, it sounded very sheltering,
Yeah.
And I was against that thought. I was obviously like, I'm making my own money. I have a salary. Let me go see what the world's about. Like, I want to go and venture out,
Gotcha.
Quickly, I realized that this is what I didn't know, actually. I had everything planned out, and I'm very good at planning things out, When it came down to finances, when it came down to living situation, food, all that stuff, I had all that shit down. What I didn't realize was that my family's company, just their company, was very, very important for me. Just having their presence around, whether it's just them being in their room, walking around in the kitchen, like, I very much felt loneliness, like, very early on, and I didn't know how to deal with that. I've never dealt with that. I've always lived with my family my whole life, right? And there was days where I'm like, shit, I wish I could be hanging out with my bros, and I can't. Or I wish I could be talking to my mom. Or I called my mom and she didn't answer the phone. Like, those moments really got me, man. I didn't know that was coming, at all. So I wasn't able to brace myself for that. And all throughout that, while I was going through that, the only thing I kept hearing in my head was my mom's voice telling me, yo, don't move out. What are you doing? Why are you moving out? You don't know what you're getting yourself into. It's scary out there. It's a big world out there. She was telling me everything that I was feeling before I left, And then when I got back, I went back home under, like, weird, intense circumstances, right? It wasn't a decision that I wanted to make, but I had to go home, right? But when I got home, even though pretty much hell was breaking loose at the time where I was going back home, I felt so at peace the day or the week I got back. Just because I was back in my crib with my family and just amongst them again, I felt so at peace. Like, I felt like a weight was lifted off my shoulder. And mind you, I didn't miss any rent. I didn't have any real struggle out there. It wasn't like my heat wasn't broken. Like, alhamdulillah, I had a roof over my head. I was doing well. Like, I was living the adult life.
Yeah.
But I was so miserable without my family being around. And I was very far from them too. So I couldn't even make the trips to see them as much as I wanted to. But I didn't even know that was a factor that was going to hit me after when I was leaving. I was just trying to see the life in front of me, like the growth aspect. Oh, I'm going to become this man. And I did to some degree because I learned that, right? And it kind of scared me straight and made me realize there's a time and a place for everything.
Yeah.
But I did not know that shit when I was leaving. I only learned it after the fact when I got back, And then what the whole peaceful aspect of me living back with my family was just the fact that I had their company around, And they didn't even know it, but I was just loving the time that I was back. I was enjoying it, So, like, living outside.
I definitely think it's important, though.
I think that was a learning lesson on its own. And the reason why I say I wouldn't, if I can go back in time, I wouldn't do that, is because I don't think I needed to learn that as harshly as I did. I think it could have been more, because, like, there was a time where I wasn't even talking to my mom, and we were just not on speaking terms because of the decision of me moving out. I think that era of my life could have been avoided if I just listened to my mom. You know what I mean? And that's only after the fact thing.
If I can push back, I think you needed to go through that in order to understand that this isn't for you. If you stayed home, you would have never known.
Part of me agrees with you, but when I look back on the actual living conditions and situation that I was in, I look back and I think I could have waited and got better. I could have waited a little more and did a little better for myself. I could have had that same experience, that same life journey I went through, just in a little bit of a better living situation.
I think you being the person who you are, I feel like you're an overthinker, and you would always have thought that I could have done a little bit better before this, you know?
I agree with you.
And I think you having that experience, realizing that, because you didn't take it from your mom, you realized that yourself, that this isn't what I need in my life right now, right? So you had to go through that entire experience to realize, maybe, even though I know you said there were circumstances that you had to go home, but maybe this is something that I really need at the moment. Going home is what I need. And you realize that from, I don't like to say failure, but from the setback of living by yourself, right? And now that you're back home, you have this sense of community that you didn't know that you would have needed when you were doing that planning, you know?
I agree.
And so I think you did well for yourself.
And it's also influenced my next move too, because I'm not going to move as far out. I'm not going to go back to downtown Toronto. You know, I'm going to stay more in the West End. Like, it's influenced so much new decisions that I never thought I'd have to make when I was leaving, you know? So, like, it was a learning lesson, but the reason why I say it could have waited a few years is because, shit happened in that crib, man. Shouldn't have happened. I'm just saying, shit was going down in that crib. It shouldn't have happened.
It was the thinnest of walls I've ever seen.
Bro, I was living in a frat house, fam. You know what frat house is? I was living in a frat house. That was my going to college experience. You know what I mean?
But crazy. That's still cool.
No, I think, like, I've had that experiences. I definitely think it's an important time in everybody's life. Because the thing about our community, especially, people go from their parents' crib to either their spouse's crib.
Right, just like that.
Yeah, they don't, like, the other non-Somalis. I don't know about our community. They go live a university somewhere else and have the experience of it as an adult. So when you get back to the crib, your parents see you as some sort of adult that you've had time to go on your own, so you may know better for yourself. They can give you input, but they're not so domineering with their opinions.
Yep.
When you're in the crib, your Duke still see your dirty underwears and stuff like that. So
go pick that up. Yep.
Is it different? They still look at you a little bit like a child, and their opinions, they feel like hold more weight. So that it's an important time, even though, like you said, you missed your family and there's certain aspects. But as a man, I think it did. You would agree.
Yeah.
Like, there's certain important things that happened during that time.
Definitely.
And the respect between you and your parents had changed.
Oh yeah, our relationship grew tremendously. Since I think that experience on its own gave me the most respect I've ever earned in my house. Because I don't know, I guess in my parents' mind, they were like, he survived, you know, even though he's back, he's like, he survived, you know, and it's a harsh world out there. Never asked him for money. You know, it was just me, myself, and I made the best effort I could. And now, after the fact, I'm treated with a little bit more respect. I can see it.
You didn't come back under duress. Like,
exactly.
You came back for the family.
Mutually, yeah. I came back mutually. And it was like with open arms. And now, like, I'll give you an example of the type of respect. Like, before, I used to get calls late at night. Yo, where are you? Are you coming back? Well, I don't get those calls anymore. You know? If I were to stay out for a night at a friend's house or something like that, I don't get the, yo, when you coming back? I now am the one to text or call and let them know, yo, this is what's happening, you know, like, as opposed to, let me just wait for the call to come in, you know, like that. Our relationship has changed tremendously, you know? So, like, it's grown, it's gotten better. But like I still have my own personal regrets too, you know, like, I'm not going to share any personal stories, but that crib was mud, fam. Crib was mud. Crazy.
No, I agree.
Thank you, everybody. This is another episode of the Coffee Break Podcast. Very interesting one, actually. But give us your opinion in the comments below. Tell us what you think. Tell us your personal experiences with identity and people's influence on your life. And we'll read it over, and we might just talk about it next episode.
I would love that. Still. That would be
like,
sick.
share, and subscribe. Tell all your friends. I'm Slim. This is my brother.
Jama.
My other brother behind the camera.
Mukhtar.
We out.